Welcome to our webinar where you will learn about Galileo, EGNOS, Copernicus, and how they are being used and can be used for agriculture. My name is Bente Lilja. I'm going to be your host today. And as usual with my webinars, we start with a weather report so that people can get on here and join us in the room, and so that you also get familiar with the chat box. We want you to interact with us. We want you to comment, to ask questions, and we want to learn about you. So before anything, we are now going to do a weather report, and I will introduce, of course, this panel in more depth later, but first you will learn where they are and what the weather is like. So we can start with you, Joaquin. Where are you and what is the weather like?
Hello, Bente. Good afternoon to everybody. And here in Prague, we have a wonderful sunny afternoon, even if we had a horrible morning running all the time. But now sun is shining and it's really great.
Shining on our webinar. So yeah. Let us know, yes, absolutely. So let us know what the weather is like where you are. We would love to hear from you. So as you are learning about the weather in the panel, we can learn about you as well. So the next one, Eva, what's the weather like and where are you?
Hi, I am from Madrid, and the weather here today is sunny with some clouds, perfect temperature, no traffic jams. That are the breaking news from Madrid.
Important weather jam, weather report, yeah.
Yeah, weather report,
yeah.
Traffic report.
Yes. Okay, next, Sofia, where are you and what's the weather like where you are?
Good afternoon, everybody. I share the same location as Eva. I'm based in Madrid, and she said the weather is great because it's not hot, it's cold, it's not rainy because yesterday rained a lot. And yes, some clouds appear, but I share that with Eva that the beauty of these days is that there is very, very few traffic yet. Even life is coming to the streets, which is also really good news in Madrid.
Yes, we are so happy for you and we feel for you. Yes, absolutely. Now, David, where are you and what's the weather like where you are?
Yeah, hi, Bente. Thank you. And hi, hello, the rest of you. I live in Innsbruck. This is, for those who don't know, in Austria, in the mountain regions of the Alps. And it's partly cloudy, but mostly sunny and good temperatures, not too hot, not too cold. So quite a good day. And I cannot complain. So yeah, welcome.
You cannot complain. That's good. So, well, the weather where I am is actually very similar to what you reported. It's a nice, partly sunny, partly overcast, comfortable around 20 degrees, which is great here where I am in Norway. Very close to the capital, Oslo, but out in the countryside. Beautiful weather, we would say. And the fields are green. No, there is no traffic jam to talk about here anyways, but I can report that the fields out in the countryside, we are talking about agriculture in this webinar, are doing great. Beautiful green colors. Okay, so I see here Antonella, nice to see you. Just Jukka from Finland, sunny 22 degrees. Great weather in Finland as well. Nuria, she seems like a sunny Madrid. Yeah, Nuria, welcome. Jeff, on the beach in Brazil. My goodness. That sounds great. So welcome to everybody and keep the reports coming on. And we will use the chat box a lot during this webinar where we will learn about Galileo, as I said. So we start by an introduction to Galileo. Then we continue to learn more about EGNOS. Then we will have a couple of examples on how they are being used for agriculture. Then we turn to Copernicus, the Earth observation program in Europe. And finally, we have a few examples on how we can combine this huge, powerful resources that we have from both positioning data and Earth observations. And at the end, so this is the order, this is the content of this webinar, and you will learn more about the presenters also, of course, just hold on. We will also at the end have a Q&A. That's where we can discuss in more depth. And you see here, there's a black box in the room, and that's for you. If we have time for it at the end, we can invite those of you who have questions who want to actually present a comment or a questions inside the room. We can invite you. All you need to do is to raise your hand. And but you do have to have a good internet connection. You need to use Chrome browser, and of course have a webcam and a headset. If that is there, that those requirements are met, we can invite you into the room to discuss with you. During the presentations, you will also be presented with a very short poll. So let us know, because we want to know a little bit about you. And we also have a poll at the end that will be more engaging, where we would like to hear from your opinions, your backgrounds, and so on. And if you stay on to the end, you will also get some links. The links are, of course, in the presentations, but we will also provide them in the chat. And some of them during the presentations, and more information will be given to you in the Q&A session. So do stay on. With that, I think we are ready to learn more about our presenters. So I will start with you, Joaquin, because this webinar is the EO4agri and GSA combined webinar. So EO4agri is a Horizon 2020 project. GSA is the Office of Galileo, and I will let you explain this, Joaquin. Can you introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Yeah, for sure, Bente. Indeed, this webinar is the wonderful consequence of the workshop that we were not able to hold here in Prague. And thanks to this EO4agri, we increased the family, and now you are like part of this Horizon 2020 family that we are usually working with. So, as you said, my name is Joaquin Reyes. I am working in GSA, in the European GNSS Agency in Prague, wonderful city. Okay, language is difficult. And what we are doing in GSA is basically managing EGNOS and Galileo programs. And this Sofia, and with Sofia is the EGNOS service provider. So it's basically the team who is helping us to keep all the satellites in place and all the signals available in all receivers. And Eva is working in Madrid. They are working really close, but they are not close enough because they are working in different buildings, different facilities, but both working in Torrejón. And Eva is working in the service center where Space Opal is managing the Galileo services and controlling all the satellites that we have around us, and of course giving us all the signals available in our devices. So I think that now is the turn of Eva and Sofia to introduce themselves.
Yes.
So
let's hear more about you. Eva, we can start with you.
Okay, thanks, Joaquin. Thanks, Bente. So I am Eva Ramirez. I come from Cádiz, a very nice town in the south of Spain. And I'm a mathematician from the University of Cádiz. And my professional life has been linked to GNSS from the very beginning. I prepared my PhD on time series analysis of GNSS series to analyze volcanic deformation models. And then I came to Madrid, and first I was working on GNB in different evolutions of Galileo and EGNOS projects. And from 2 years ago, I'm working as a GNSS expert in INECO. And also, as Joaquin has mentioned, I am working on the GNSS Service Center in Torrejón as part of the Space Opal team for the market development and applications of Galileo, mainly focused on agriculture and geomatics. And that's all on my side.
That's not a little. Thank you, Eva. Okay, Sofia, how about you?
Hi, thanks, Bente, and thanks, Joaquin, for the presentation. So my name is Sofia Cilla. I'm from Spain, from a city called Zaragoza that's in between Madrid and Barcelona, but I work in Madrid for almost 22 years. I'm not a mathematician, but I'm a physicist, so quite abstract topic. I did my PhD in solid-state physics, but then when I finalized it by the very beginning of this century, I joined GNSS venture in Europe by means of GMB. I started working there in the early 2000s. And I started working in the development of both EGNOS and Galileo for near 8 years. Then afterwards, I decided to, let's say, jump into the application side of this GNSS. And then I joined ESSP, which is the company actually providing the EGNOS service provider and then the contract with ESA. Therefore, Joaquin is my customer. And since then, I've been supporting GSA in different areas, and particularly for the last 6 years, I think, I've been supporting the adoption of EGNOS in different market segments, and in particular, I've been deeply involved in agriculture. So that's all by my side.
Interesting. We are looking forward to learn more about EGNOS for sure.
Thanks.
And Galileo, of course. Now, David.
Hi, Bente. Yes. To my person, my name is David Kolitzus. I live in Innsbruck, Austria, as mentioned before. My background is in remote sensing, but also a different part. I actually did high energy astrophysics as a PhD. So quite a common theme here, at least to some degree. It seems to be a fitting education. And since pretty much 4 years now, I work at this company, GeoVil. This is a service provider in the Earth observation domain, focusing mainly on land monitoring. So all aspects from agriculture is, of course, one of them, but we do a lot of other Copernicus land monitoring services as well. So we quite have an expertise in providing solution and information derived from satellites on land monitoring in specific. And I'm also part of this EO4agri project, which Bente explained at the beginning. And I'm also leading a couple of different projects with an agriculture focus. So the idea was always to make use of this huge wealth of data that is there and to derive the information, which is non-trivial in nature. And it's quite a process, but we have a lot of, let's say, success stories, and but we still think we are scratching the surface of what can be done with the data. And this is just a logical consequence of pushing this further. So I'm quite happy with that. And I think I can contribute today at the Copernicus side on a, let's say, an easy format and see where we can go with that. And we quite have an overlap in topics and quite a big possibilities in the future ahead of us. So looking forward to that, yes.
So thank you, David. A little bit more about me as well. So here's another astrophysicist, so with a lot of mathematics and physics background. So indeed, we are united here. And so we learned, I guess all of us here learned a lot about Copernicus and Galileo, but in another context and meaning something else in our younger days. Just to repeat for you, I see there's a lot of you not from Europe. So Galileo is the GNSS program in Europe, and Copernicus is the Earth observation program. Just to repeat that. You will hear it a lot, but just to repeat it. I'm representing EO4agri, and I'm working for an organization called Plan for All in this context, which is an association working on open data and open source. And particularly, we are addressing agriculture applications, not only, but that's a big area for us. I am also wearing a GEO hat, so the group on Earth observation. So I'm a member of the program board who is overlooking the entire program, developing Earth observations, both as for providing information, but also transforming it into applications and services and final knowledge. So that's us. Let's hear from you as well. And we would love to hear more about you. You will get some polls, so if you are a little bit shy, you can at least answer the polls that will be given during the presentation. Very short one, as I said. And you will also be able to connect with us. You get more information on how to connect with all of us at the Q&A session, so do stay on. Now, I think we're finally ready to learn about Galileo. Eva.
Great. Thank you, Bente.
So we will turn off our cameras, but we will come back to you after Eva has done her presentation, and then you will be able to ask some very short questions in between if you have, but if the longer questions will be addressed in the Q&A. So Eva, you're good to go.
Okay, so hello everybody, welcome again, and thanks for joining us to this interesting webinar. So in the following slides, I will present some basic ideas about Galileo. So my intention is that at the end of my short talk, you have a clear picture of which are the main concepts of these systems, okay? So at the end of these slides, you will know which are the main differentiators of Galileo with respect to other positioning systems. You will understand which are the main elements within Galileo's system. I will also show you which are the current and future services of Galileo. And I will present the GNSS Service Center and which is its role. So Galileo, it's a global navigation system, such as others around the world. GPS from the United States, that is the most famous one, GLONASS from Russia, FIDO from China. But what does it mean? It means it's global, that is that it provides global coverage all around the Earth. It is a navigation system because it allows us to get our position with certain accuracy and also provides time reference. And it is a satellite system because it is not only formed by the satellite constellation, but also for a complex infrastructure that makes that all together works. Okay, Galileo, if I guess that you have already known, it takes its name from Galileo Galilei, the famous astronomer from the 17th century. It is an European initiative which appears as a joint contribution between the European Commission, the European Space Agency, and the GNSS Space Agency. And it is a civil system. That is, it has been thought and designed by civil entities. And its aim is to improve citizens' life. For example, it is not the case of GPS, that it's developed by the Department of Defense of the United States, and in its origin was focused on military purposes, although nowadays all of us can use GPS freely. Although Galileo on its own is fully autonomous, it is also interoperable with other GNSS constellations. It is quite powerful because the user can use measurements from different constellations, Galileo, GPS, GLONASS, whatever, and get better performances and better positionings, okay? But which are the differentiators with respect to other systems? First, Galileo offers an open service which is free of charge and delivers multiple frequency signals. In addition, the way these signals are modulated confers them more robustness to multipath. Also, we have in coming future, 2 additional services that will provide Galileo very valuable characteristics. First, we have the Global High Accuracy Service, which provide corrections through the Galileo signals. And then we have the authentication service. It is quite important because Galileo is the only constellation providing this feature. Authentication provides protection against unintentional or malicious interference, what it is the famous spoofing, offering trust information to the users. In this slide, I wanted to summarize some important milestones in the life of Galileo, in Galileo history. I won't go through all these dates in details, but just keep in mind that the first time that Galileo appears in the official communications was in 1999, okay? So we can say Galileo is millennial. Then in 2013, it was the date when the first independent Galileo position fix was achieved. It was a very important milestone and the best one. In 2016, Galileo initial services were declared. So from December 2016, we can use already Galileo. So which are the components of these systems? If you are used to these navigation systems, you will know that there are 3 segments: the space segments, the ground, and the user segment. The space segment is formed by the satellite constellations. Nowadays, we have 22 operational satellites, 2 satellites that are placed in eccentric orbits and that are used for testing purposes, and 2 other satellites that are not in operational mode nowadays because they are under maintenance. Once the constellation is fully deployed, we will count with 30 satellites, 24 operationals, plus 6 satellites more in orbit spares. And all these satellites are distributed in 3 orbital planes that are at around 23,000 kilometers above the Earth. Then we have the ground segment. The ground segment is formed by all the ground infrastructure, such as link stations, sensor stations that receive Galileo measurements, processing centers, and so on. There are a lot of information in this slide, but I just only focus on the core of this ground infrastructure, which are the Galileo control centers, okay? There are one in Italy, another one in Germany, and they are in charge of mission and operation activities. And all this ground infrastructure is also supported by the set of service facilities, such as the Security Monitoring Center, the Reference Center, and the GNSS Service Center that I will present in my last slide. Here in this map, you can have a view of the GSS distribution, the station distribution, where are the centers, and then when you have the PDF available, you can have a look if you are interested. And finally, we have the user segment, which is composed by all of us, all the people which have an interest in using Galileo or are already using in their products, the receivers, the devices, the smartphones, the tablets, and so on. And from the feedback of this user segment, the coming evolutions of the overall system are made, because one of the roles or the intentions also of the GSA is to listen to the users to check which are the needs, okay, to get improvements and to think about new functionalities and all these things. So I invite you to check this usegalileo.eu web page, where you can check if your devices are already using Galileo or not. And then which services do Galileo offers? Well, there are different Galileo services depending on the final use, okay? So first, we have already mentioned the open service, which is free of charge, and it's useful for positioning, timing, and the authentication message navigation. Then we have the public regulated service for governmental use, for the police, emergency service, and so on. This service is therefore designed for a greater robustness and a higher availability, since the related activities are more critical. Then we have the search and rescue service, which helps to locate people in danger and confirms that the help is on the way. And then we have a new service on the horizon. One of them, the before mentioned high accuracy positioning service, and then the authentication service, which counts of a free service, that is the navigation message authentication of the open service signal, and then an additional commercial service, which is under a cost fee, and it's based on the E6 signal encryption, and it is thought for a protection to a more sophisticated attacks to the signal. So, taking all these quick things in mind, which are the Galileo features that can help us in agriculture? First of all, the mentioned multi-frequency. Thanks to this, we can get better coverage and better performance, mainly in difficult environments. So in those areas with a lot of trees, with a lot of buildings, and with some obstacles that there are multipaths present. Also, we will get a faster convergence time to get the first accurate position, what it is here called TTFF, time to first fix. So it's good for the convergence of our devices, and also for the elimination of the ionosphere effects, because combining the different frequencies, we can reduce the ionosphere, reduce or eliminate the ionosphere effects on the signal. Then we have the high accuracy service, which will offer free corrections available all around the Earth. It is very, very important, because with this service, we will get accuracies around 20 centimeter level. And there will be no need of a reference station in the surroundings, or it will be no need either of the subscription of a commercial correction service. This, which kind of activities can we think about for this application? So guidance, monitoring, variable rates applications, or field delineations. Those activities where we require more accurate positioning and this level of accuracy. Then finally, we have the authentication feature, which provides a powerful protection, as I mentioned before, against spoofing, ensuring that the received navigation message comes from a Galileo satellite and not from any other source. This is a free service based on the open service navigation message through the E1 frequency. And additionally, Galileo will offer a common service authentication based on description of E6 spreading code, but this service will have associated a cost, okay? So this authentication feature is quite useful for activities such as geotraceability, geotagging information within the Common Policy Agriculture, in particular geotagging of photos that Joaquin will show us in its presentation, a very interesting application of this, and also for automatic steering, because we will have the full trust that the data that we are receiving has not been supplanted, and they are coming from the Galileo. So the position is that we are getting are not in interference by any other source. And finally, I present here the European GNSS Service Center. Okay, this center is the interface between Galileo system and the users. So I for sure invite you to check our web portal, where you can find a very relevant and interesting documentation about Galileo system, also about performance reports, the status of the market and technical reports, the status of the constellation, some data, so the liquid model for the ionosphere, and also we have a help desk where you can launch all your questions, doubts about Galileo. So if at the end of the webinar you don't have time to ask everything you want about Galileo, you can ask here also, and we will answer you. So please don't forget to visit our web and also register, so you will have latest news about GNSS and Galileo in your mail. So on my side.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Eva.
Next to you.
So you there, that's the right button. Yes.
Yeah, I was searching for the button.
Thank you so much. Thank you also to the audience for some very interesting questions. We will answer some of them that requires a little bit more time to answer in the Q&A, but I do have one. I noticed one from Maria. I think we can ask now. What will be the accuracy provided by the Galileo High Accuracy Service?
That's it's in one of the slides. It's on the level of 20 centimeters approx.
20 centimeters.
Yes.
And
thank you. Sorry, I invite Maria, for sure, all the audience to check at the GSE portal for the user reports. There are very interesting documents that summarize the needs and the requirements of every market segment, in particular this one about agriculture. And may I share the link here in the chat? Now that I don't have to talk anymore.
Yes, absolutely. Share links in the chat, and you see here Michael is also helping you with sharing some of the some more in-depth videos and more information that capture what you just said and also expand on it. And by the way, I think I saw one question asking if we will get the slides as an audience, and you will get the slides. And the as long as you're registered, by the way, you will get the replay of this video later this evening already. Then we will also publish the replay of this video with the presentations, so the slides, in several outlets on the EO4agri website, on the Plan for All website, and I guess you also, Joaquin, will share this on the GSS website?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
I mean, GSA on his two brands, like his ESSP and Service Center, we will share all the material.
Yes. So
and also, I guess that the EO4agri will also help us to disseminate all the information.
Absolutely.
As GNSA, as satellite signals.
Yes. Yes. So yeah, this is an interesting question, by the way. I think we can take this from Dennis. What is the coverage of GNSS in Africa? I guess GNSS, by GNSS, you mean Galileo?
Galileo. With Galileo, it's the same coverage of the overall world because it is a global system. It is different with EGNOS. Maybe Sofia can explain afterwards. But it is as the GPS. If you have a good view over your horizon and you have at least 4 satellites in view, you will get the same level of performances.
Yes. So I see great questions here. Don't panic. We will answer those questions in the Q&A. So thank you. Keep them coming. That's what I wanted to say, because now I think you
maybe Bente, we can also remark that we have Michal in the backstage helping us and collecting all the information. So don't feel that we are all here. I mean, we are alone here. We have a complete team, and Michal is the best representation that we have.
Yes, yes. So Mikael, the one who is sharing links to various videos and other stuff on Galileo and EGNOS, that's the one you are talking about, Joaquin. So yes, I think we can move on to Eva, or to Sofia, and learn about EGNOS.
Okay, switch off the camera. Okay.
Yes, switch off the camera, and we will come back to you when she's finished in about 10 minutes.
Yes. First, I have to share the screen. Okay. I think you can see now my screen.
Absolutely, yes. Go ahead.
So yes, I have in the next 2 minutes to explain you what is EGNOS. So the first thing is that EGNOS is also a European navigation program. The main difference in relation with Galileo, that is much more well known than EGNOS, is that EGNOS is an augmentation one. It means that it augments GPS signals over European territory, right? So it's like, it's a service that just provides a better and enhanced accuracy over Europe. So the EGNOS stands for European Geostationary Navigation Overlay Service. And I'd like to highlight the fact that it's a free European augmentation system over GPS. So EGNOS without GPS cannot, there is no service. So this is the big and most relevant difference between Galileo and EGNOS. Galileo is the core constellation, while EGNOS is an augmentation. It needs to augment a core constellation, and the moment being, EGNOS augments GPS. EGNOS was designed for aviation, but as the service is there and many very used for aviation, it's a free European satellite service is used for, say, European Union has decided to make it available for every European citizen that can make a suitable usage based on its of the accuracy that it can achieve for any other applications, including agriculture. So EGNOS is not just a European venture, it's part of a worldwide concept, so-called as VAS, that was originated in the frame of aviation, because GPS was very attractive for civil authorities, civil aviation authorities worldwide, but it had some integrity problems that need to be solved in order to guarantee the safety standards required by civil aviation, and therefore this VAS concept was figured out. So this concept in the United States is so-called WAS, In Europe, it's EGNOS. In Russia, it's SDCM, even though I think it's not yet operational. In India, it's so-called GAGAN, and in Japan, it's so-called NSS. So even though it's an augmentation system, regional, even the concept of regional is for, let's say, continental scale, you can see that is quite a global concept. As I said today, it augments just GPS, but EGNOS also has a future in the hands of GSA. And for the moment being, it's considered that from 2024, EGNOS will augment also Galileo and will broadcast also dual frequency corrections. Very, very briefly speaking, how does it work, this EGNOS system? This is the core constellation. In this particular case, it's GPS. Remember that EGNOS augments GPS today. In the future, will augment also Galileo, but today it only augments GPS. There are a number of stations spread all over Europe and in some other parts of the world, right, that gather those GPS measurements. The measurements are sent to two mission control centers. One is based in Ficino in Rome, and the other one is in Madrid, also in Spain. And then finally, after the computation of the corrections, the information is sent to some uplink stations to be broadcast by two geostationary satellites. And this is another key concept to understand EGNOS. EGNOS provides the augmentation signal using the same frequency as GPS L1, but by means of a geostationary satellite. And then the messages are broadcasted on an area that covers, let's say, geographically continental, well, it's not continental, geographically Europe, right? Because Canary Islands, Iceland, and of course, Britain is also covered. So what are the services EGNOS are providing? These services are basically the signal in space. So this signal in space is called, there's only one signal in space, but these two services you have in the screen, these open service and safety of life, then you may think that are two different signals or services. But the point is not on the signal, the point is on the receiver, on the GPS receiver processing and gathering these messages in order to obtain a position. So what is called an open service is you're using, by means of an equipment, you're using a EGNOS signal together with GPS, and then you obtain a position. So if the position is not accurate enough, or it's this receiver positions you in, don't know, in an inaccurate or in a nonsense place, then you cannot complain about it because you are making use of EGNOS as it is, as we are making use, for instance, with our phones with GPS. You rely on a signal, but if it's not accurate enough, you cannot complain. While this safety of life service that is based on the same signal, the difference becomes on the receiver side, because the receiver that provides this safety of life service for a user is a receiver that is certified according to specific regulations made in the aviation world. And therefore, for those receivers that have to go through a stringent certification process organized by EASA, the European Aviation Safety Authority in Europe, then you can rely on the position that this receiver is providing you thanks to GPS plus EGNOS. And in case there could be any problem with that position, it's not accurate enough or it's incorrect, then there are liabilities. Therefore, as a user, you can complain because you are relying on such service. But I would like to understand that this open service and safety of life service, the signal is the same, the different starts with comes from the on the equipment side of it. And then we also have EGNSS that has nothing to do with the signal in space, but is an internet-based service where you can access a lot of information and data belonging to EGNOS system. So for the scope of this webinar devoted to the use in agriculture, the two services of interest for you in relation with EGNOS are the open service and EGNSS. Roughly speaking, this is the area covered by Europe, and where you can expect, if you are a user equipped with an EGNOS-enabled receiver, to obtain an enhanced accuracy, right? So much better than just using GPS. This is there where you can expect EGNOS to work. So I would like also here to answer maybe that question that was done before, if GNSS was available in Africa. So you can see that in the northern side of Africa, EGNOS coverage applies, and therefore in the northern part you could benefit from an enhanced accuracy for free. So what accuracy you may expect from EGNOS, roughly speaking, and what is really important here is to say how we measure accuracy, because there are many different ways to measure accuracy. So if we measure it as a 95% percentile, then the values you can obtain are below 1 meter horizontal and below 2 meters vertical, right? So in practice, and thanks to this free European service, in Europe, whenever you are in this coverage area, if you have an EGNOS-enabled receiver, you will have for free an accuracy below 1 meter and 2 meters, horizontal and vertical, respectively, measured as a 95% percentile. To understand what this means in the practical side, this plot is just to show what is the outcome of a GPS receiver in green, right? These are the position of a fixed receiver, right? A position, so is the error of a fixed receiver. As you know where it is placed, you can measure how much the position deviates from the place where you have placed the receiver. And then in green you can see the error you obtain just using GPS, and then in blue you can see the errors you obtain when you activate EGNOS in that receiver. So from 1 meter of error that could be observed with using just GPS, with EGNOS you can even, in this location, you can even reach 58 centimeters, right? But this is accuracy, as I mentioned previously. It's very important to know how we are measuring the accuracy, because for farmers, absolute accuracy and accuracy of in a 95% percentile maybe does not say something. Well, indeed does not say much. For farmers, those using tractors and that need to know how much accurate is the guidance system they are using to guide their tractors, the concept and the way to measure accuracy is what they so-called pass-to-pass error. It's a different way to measure accuracy. It's a relative accuracy over a specific period of time, right? It's a standardized, this concept of pass-to-pass accuracy. So when we measure, when we compute what is EGNOS accuracy, as if in this pass-to-pass concept, then EGNOS provides up to 30 centimeters, as you can see in this map. And in the EGNOS user support website, you can have the maps updated every day with the information in different parts of Europe. So on the practical side, this is then for what is being used EGNOS, and we have evidences gathered on the use of this free European service. So what has been found so far is that it's deeply used in those farming activities, performing efficient section control and variable rate application for the different tasks a farmer needs to perform in order to, let's say, keep the life cycle of a crop, from ploughing, sowing, spreading, and spraying. EGNOS is really used because it provides the accuracy those farmers require, that always relies between 30 centimeters. Mainly, this is used for cereals. For other type of crops that may require even higher accuracy, EGNOS does not fit. But for cereal crops, EGNOS fits perfectly well. In order to understand what are the benefits, there are a number of tools we've developed that allow us to understand which are the benefits it provides to users. So I encourage you to click to this link, to EASE. Is a cost-benefit analysis tool that allows to assess how much fertilizers, pesticides, chemicals in general you're saving, thanks to this guidance that allows a farmer not to overlap when working, when going one pass after the other for working his field or her field, and this means quite a lot of money in terms of chemicals. Our estimation is that typical EGNOS equipment to be installed in a tractor that is around 1,500 euros is amortized after 8 campaigns. So definitely this is a driver for farmers to get equipped with such device to have this guidance, because they really benefit from this. There's also, I encourage you also to visit the web for another tool that is a demonstrator. So it's like a little video game. So if you want to understand the concept behind these pass-to-pass overlap reduction thanks to guidance, are encouraged to go to this and download it, because it's free. You can download the executable and play a bit with it to understand the principles, why it's so important and so interesting for a farmer to have guidance. There's also another application where EGNOS is being used, that is irrigation, right? Because they need these systems. I'm pretty sure you have seen those structures when going on the countryside. So those mechanical equipments need encoders for automatic irrigation, and therefore GNSS and EGNOS in particular is found a suitable solution with the right accuracy to have control on these structures on space and with in the correct place and at the correct time. So not to bother you, I would like to let you know that we have collected a number of testimonies from many relevant stakeholders in farming. So I'm pretty sure you all know what is New Holland, AgLeader, Topcon, Class, there are tractor manufacturers. Also AgLeader and Topcon are I would say are companies providing solutions for farming. TJETS, Montpellier Agro is quite famous or quite well-known high school in farming in Europe. They all know what is EGNOS. They all are using it, and here in the different links, you can find further details. Last but not least, I would like to mention very quickly, this EDA service I told you at the beginning, that is no longer a signal in the space, but is a service provided by means of the internet, as I explained before, is as far as EGNOS is a free European service, and it belongs to the European Union. All the data that are available in this service can be accessed freely once again by means of this server. So as part of the infrastructure belonging to EGNOS, they're very nice and very accurate stations, right? The ones that are being used to correct the calculations. And thanks to EDAS, users can access to those stations in order to use them as if they were GNSS and RTK based stations. The point here is that you have to be very close to those stations, and there are not so many in EGNOS. There are 40, as I mentioned, worldwide. That's, as let's say, the idea is that whatever is in EGNOS, as is free and it belongs to all European citizens, it can be used for those that may find a benefit for it. So the lucky ones that are close to any of those stations will benefit from having them, or by means of feeders, or accessing them as if they were RTK or DGNSS station. And here is the map where you can see the location of those stations in Europe. And my last slide, if you want to know more about EGNOS, there's also a mobile app, right, that can be downloaded both on Google Play and on the App Store, where you can find all the information, just clicking on your phone about the EGNOS Health App, where to write, information about the geostationary satellites that are available, documents, performance, everything you have there at the click of your mobile phone. And I think that's all by my side.
Thank you very much. And so interesting to hear about this powerful resource for not only Europe, but also to a certain degree, also around Europe. So that was one of the questions we saw: is EGNOS, covering the entire world or their specific region? And I think you actually show that in your presentation, Sofia. geographical coverage. So it's not only Europe, also our neighbors in Europe can benefit from this service. Please, Vasilis, say, please make your slides available after the end of the webinar. Yes, we will, Vasilis.
Okay.
And Vasilis is also asking, how can we submit a use case for EGNOS application in agriculture? Can you answer that, Sofia?
A use case, so we can, if the person interested in a use case, or can write to this help desk we have in EGNOS, and we will be delighted to support and to better understand and which kind of use case, and we will share all our experience in order to guide this person. So please write to the EGNOS help desk, and we'll answer you for sure.
Great. So I see there's more questions, but in order to make sure that people are getting all the presentations first, for some of you might not be able to stay on for the discussion, I would like us to continue with the presentations now. And partly you will get some of the answers, some of this will be answered in the presentations, I'm sure, because the next one coming up is you, Joaquin, and you have some examples on how this positioning has been used in for agriculture already. There's a couple of examples.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you are absolutely right, and I will try to summarize. May I ask you a practical question? I mean, what is happening after 1 hour? Because we organized this one for 1 hour, and I don't want to jeopardize all the time. So may we continue? And
yes, for us here, we can continue. I think. Okay. Beyond, and we have this webinar room is available for 4 hours, so we should be. But I don't think we will be here that
4 hours is more than enough. I thanks a lot for telling us what is the limitation. Okay, yeah. So I need to not to be longer than 3 hours. It's fine. Okay, so as I was saying, my name is Joaquin. I will switch off the camera, and I will start with the presentation. Basically, trying to explain how all the systems and the programs that Eva and Sofia were explaining, we can use it on daily basis, or how the farmers are using this one, and we are able to benefit from the outcome of these farmers. So first, I would like to focus on the farmers. I think that Sofia and Eva clearly said, but just in case that you miss it, both services are for free, and both services are developed in Europe. So what I am saying is that you don't need to pay anything for using these two services. So what we are trying to do is helping to the farmers and providing additional possibilities that they can use on a daily basis. This slide is just to give you a picture about what I am doing. It looks like I am the only engineer presenting here. So I will be practical and just avoiding all the text. But basically, we at GSA, we are splitting our task in 3 different pillars. The first pillar is market user knowledge. This is when we are trying to be in contact with the users, and we are providing the feedback in market and technology reports. That both reports are available for free in our webpage. And we are organizing industry consultations and user satisfaction monitoring with the surveys that we are organizing every year. So if you know me, basically, I think that every year you are receiving emails from me and or the team just asking for your feedback. So it's a clear message. Don't hesitate. Tell us what you think about all these services. The second pillar is maybe the most difficult one, is where we are taking care of all these stakeholders, as Sofia was saying about Case New Holland, or Topcon, or AgriLeader, or any kind of provider, any kind of user that is also providing this service and is using this service. we are also in contact with them. And of course, we are providing technical support to the European Commission. That is the one at the end applying and writing the regulations. And finally, the third pillar of our activities are focusing funding. Is basically opening the call and asking you, okay, what can you do for us, and what how you can help us to use the services. So this is why we are funding projects. We are giving the opportunity to the company, to the industry, to develop their ideas with several funding opportunities. And then the project is, the application is developed. And of course, all this we are doing not only for agriculture, we are doing for all the market segments. But let's focus on agriculture in this presentation. Then, okay, why we consider that is not, everything is not done in agriculture. We need to continue evolving. We need to produce more with less. We need to follow what is the trend today with the population, with the people. Maybe everybody moving to the city. Nobody wants to be on the field, just working as a farmer. And the ones that are working as farmers, they need help, and they need to contribute. They need to provide more products and with price competition and everything. So we need to be more and more efficient. And of course, we need to be sustainable. We need to be green. We need to be in accordance with the environment, and we need to also think about the future. So we really do believe that sometimes bigger machines are not the solutions. So don't think that, okay, we want to produce more, we need bigger machines. No, we have enough bigger machines. We have enough fields. What we need to do is be more and more efficient. And what is happening if we are just going to the another part? What is happening if we don't have machines? If we cannot do the things with precision agriculture without GNSS, without EGNOS, and without Galileo? How we can survive? We cannot, and we will. I think that nobody wants to come back to this initial and previous techniques that our families were using in the past. And in the middle, okay, now thinking about the future, considering what is the past, considering what will be the future, we need more ideas, more applications. So, but it's not the only. It's not the thing that they will with the last presentation. And we are talking about GNSS, we are talking about the satellites. But what is happening if these satellites are a spoof, or someone wants to trick the signal, or someone wants to use the signal not in the correct way? Eva was remarking that Galileo is the only constellation that is providing authentication, and this is true. GPS is not providing authentication, and neither GLONASS or Beidou will provide authentication. So this is one of the important differentiators. When someone tells you, okay, don't worry, I have my GPS receiver, I don't need Galileo. I think that one of the differentiators on top of this multi-frequency and high accuracy is really what is happening if the signal that you are receiving is not really coming from a real satellite. And last slide, talking about the theory, is how we are organizing all the knowledge. As you can imagine, we are talking with the farmers, we are talking with the stakeholders, we are talking with everybody. But of course, then we need to come back to the office and write what are the conclusions of all these talks. So the conclusions are in a report. Don't think that is a 1,000 pages report. It's more or less around 50 pages. So it's like a good summary about all the things that we are doing in agriculture and all the feedback that we are receiving from you in agriculture. I was talking about the possibility to fund projects and to give money basically to the industry in order to develop ideas. This is an example. This is just a simple example is Horizon 2020 project. The name is Green Patrol. And the good point is that we are able to use GNSS signals in an indoor environment, like a greenhouse. In a greenhouse, as you can see in the picture, you have the windows, the roof looks like you can see the satellites, but there are refraction. There are several refractions. There is a multipath effect, and there are a lot of funny things that are happening with the signal inside of this greenhouse. And with this project, we are able to move and navigate a robot inside of a green path in a greenhouse. So it's just an example that don't think that the satellites are just things that are moving around, and we cannot really use even more for applications that we were not even thinking about that. Another example that is going to the farmers. The farmers, they need they are usually receiving a lot of subsidiaries, and these subsidiaries are the ones that are able to fix the prices and allow them to keep a competitive picture in this global world. So now to commit and to send these applications, we are asking as the European Commission and as the paying agencies evidence. And as I was saying that this evidence has to be somehow certified, we need to provide authentication with these pictures. And this is the idea of this application. It's an Android application, and is able to authenticate the location of the picture. And I think that this is all from the moment.
Thank you very much, Joaquin. It's interesting to see how much we can do with positioning data. It has changed a lot since I was working on that in my time at the Mapping Authority in Norway, I have to say. So I'm all excited to hear about this. So we will talk more about other projects in the Q&A. Just some words on the timing here. We have been having this webinar for 1 hour. We have one more presentation, which is David, two more presentations, excuse me, David, who will introduce us to Copernicus, and then a couple of examples on how we can combine Earth observations and positioning data, again from Joaquin. And then we have the Q&A. So I estimate that we will be going on for about half an hour, 3/4 of an hour, maybe. Well, half an hour should be sufficient for the duration of this webinar, just for you to calculate a little bit on the timing. I see that there are some questions here. I see Sia, thank you so much for your engagement. I see you are posting a lot of questions and information. And one, just to pick up on one of them, which insect pests and pathogens are managed in greenhouse IPM? I think this is a question that will fit very well at the end to see, where we can combine Earth observations and positioning. So we will discuss a little bit more about those questions here at the end, and there will be also some follow-ups, so just stay put. Okay, I think we just, for the case of the time here, I think we just jump over to Earth observations and the Copernicus program with David. David, are you ready?
I'm ready, yes.
Yes.
So welcome everyone, 1 hour in. So now it's time to talk about Earth observation data. So we have had a lot of precision and positioning, and now comes another completely different part of it. And at the end, we will have a session on how to combine them. So what is Copernicus? So Copernicus, as you can see in the upper right-hand corner of the slide, the slogan is Europe's Eyes on Earth. So it's quite a catchy and quite ambitious goal that we want to see what's happening and quantify change on the Earth. There's a short slide on not history, but some key objectives that the Copernicus program wants to fulfill. It's a program coordinated by European Commission. It has a global coverage. So although it's a European mission, this maybe is a starting point since we have a very international audience. It provides data and information on a global level. It was formerly known as GMES. And some of the objectives are to provide accurate, timely, and easily accessible information. So these are three different adjectives we need to talk about, and all this to provide information to help decision makers to take appropriate actions. So this is quite generic, but it addresses various different stakeholder groups with very different interests. So we try to be as objective, providing data and information to those decision makers in the respective fields. One of them is, of course, the agriculture domain. And of course, already in agriculture, there were very different stakeholder groups, from the farmer to the agri-food industry to support actions to European level agriculture policy level decision makers. So it's quite a broad range already. So please excuse me if I do not cover everything. We just have less than 10 minutes. So there will be some things I leave out of just to be more precise. It provides also crucial environmental information to understand our planet, to quantify changes, and to give some numbers to things happening. And as just mentioned, Copernicus delivers operational data. So it is not a science mission. It is intended to be used in operational mode, and the data and information are free and openly accessible. So yeah, this what the aim is, the objective is, but how does it do that? I mean, one of the heart of the Copernicus mission very often is the Sentinel fleet. So the Sentinels are 6 satellite missions, most of them actually twin satellites, orbiting the Earth starting from 2014. So now pretty much 6 years ongoing, Sentinel-1 to Sentinel-6. Each of these Sentinel missions has a specific domain that it addresses. Some of them are passive sensors, just looking at the Earth. Some are actually active with radar data. Some are focused on land monitoring solutions. Some are more looking for water or for the atmosphere. So there's a whole bunch of information and data that is generated by these 6 Sentinel. There are also a list of contributing missions which I will skip due to shortness of time. But maybe since we are talking about agriculture, the focus is that let's say Sentinel-1 and Sentinel-2 are, I would say, the 2 missions with the most direct impact on agriculture. So they will be a bit explained more in detail. Maybe just a short, are these 6? Sentinel-1 is a radar mission. So active sensor looking at the Earth, measuring the backscatter, different application from soil moisture over vegetation, and can look through clouds. So since we are looking at the Earth, we are normally not interested in clouds. So clouds are normally a problem in our data. So radar missions are lucky enough to look through the clouds. So you get, every time you take an observation, you get an information back, and you can do your analysis. There are Sentinel-2 and 3, which are optical missions. They take not only the visual, but in a broader range, wavelength range, images of the Earth on a regular basis and provide them. But of course, they are covered with clouds sometimes. The other 4, Sentinel-4, 5, they even have an atmospheric focus on chemistry missions, so on climate change, as well as Sentinel-5 and 6 have a dedicated different purpose. But yes, these satellites produce a lot of data, and that's why I said it's Sentinel fleets may be the core component of Copernicus. There's a lot more to it. So first of all, it's a data policy, which is different and unique in this position. It's free, full, and open data policy. So all this data is made available to every user who wants to have access to it globally, and for the full time series, which dates back now pretty much 6 years, depending on which satellite. But this accumulates to pretty much a few petabytes of data. So this is all not worth anything if you don't have the capabilities to process the data. So therefore, a big component of Copernicus are actually the DIAs. These are data and information access services. What does it mean? It's pretty much a cloud-based platform, so processing and storage in the cloud. So on this data storage, you have the full archive of Sentinel data stored, and then you can rent virtual machines and do your processing. This all comes along with this paradigm shift on working where the data is and not downing the data. So the DIAs are a crucial part of the whole package of Copernicus services. So bringing the data, making it free, full, and openly available, but also giving people access and the means to process these in a friendly manner is also a key component to allow different stakeholders and user groups to really make the most out of it. So I just have selected one of the satellites as a showcase. What are we talking about there to get an idea of the data we're seeing? So Sentinel-2A and B, from my perspective, is the most direct use case that we have, or the best fitting satellite for agriculture use case. These are two orbiting satellites. They're faced at 180 degrees of each other. They take a revisit time if you just have a single satellite of 10 days, or in the case of both operating as I do now, you get for each pixel or each land part of the land, you get an observation each 5 days. Because you know we are used to get satellite data, but normally we don't just get a few per year. But with Sentinel, we have each 5 days we get a new observation. The swath of the satellite is 290 kilometers. And what does it measure actually? Well, the main instrument of the Sentinel-2 is the MSI, the multispectral instrument. On the table on the right-hand side, you see the Sentinel-2 different bands. In total, there are 13 bands. The different wavelengths are showed there as well. You can see there's a big red edge focus. So the red edge bands are the one which are most sensitive to chlorophyll content and to the red edge that you see in vegetation spectrums. So it's nearly designed to cover spectral changes or vegetation changes on the Earth. When we talk about resolution, the pixel size is in the order depending on which channel you have, either 10 meter or 20 meter. Compared to what was the predecessor by the Americans, the Landsat 8 has a 30 meter resolution. Now with Sentinel-2A, we have 10 or 20 meter depending on which band you're using, and you have an observation each 5 days for every part of the world. There's a final component I want to mention here from Copernicus, which is offered, because not only the data and processing, but there are already services dedicated to some domains. So there are these 6 different Copernicus services. Each of them produces a different kind of information that you can access. And there is, of course, the one most relevant for agriculture would be land monitoring. An example, what has been done so far in the land monitoring services, they provide, for example, coastal zones. This pretty much are mapping activities, so not directly precision agriculture, but used in a kind of a different manner, but on land monitoring solutions. And there are ideas on improving land monitoring services also to serve farmers more directly. And the next slide actually are just some examples and also some values, how much money is already saved by using this Earth observation data in various forms. So the slides following are taken from a presentation done by an ERSC representative at a workshop, which was this summer in Innsbruck. So in the big picture, what we can address are something like future conditions, season dates, what to grow when, insurance premiums. These are the things, the big pictures insurance companies, for example, of a farm are interested in. On the small picture, on a farming level, it's about irrigation, fertilization, maybe machine-to-machine communication if we talk about tractors, and automatic plowing, sowing, and maximize efficiency to reduce costs. So pretty much a common theme on being more efficient, and high-resolution satellite images can play a big role in there. Because it provides information on visible as well as invisible spectrum. It collects and archives the data over decades. So we also do not see in-year data, but also can follow climatic changes and changes on productivity of your land over various years and adapt accordingly. So again, giving information to make better decisions in the end. The cover is consistent and repeated and pretty much the whole globe is covered. So this is not only with a spatial regional focus, but is worldwide. And the easiest task pretty much is that you can observe the crop growing condition and monitor diseases in an objective manner from space all the time. And there's a case overview. So how is it done? How is it used already? And there's just some experiments. These are taken also from the Earth webpage. There's a link to that later. For each of these use cases, there's a report showing where the numbers are coming from and what's the benefits. And there are three I'd like to show today. One is growing potatoes in Belgium. So a use case for the potato industry in Belgium, which makes use of the data. There's a farm management practice in Denmark as well, and a cereal farming example in Poland. But as you can see, there are many more success stories like this. But I still think we are scratching the surface. So these are more motivating that the users there. And the value taken from this additional materials you can see at ersk.org/SEBS. You can see the references and the numbers where they're coming from. And this is a benefit in million euros for each of the use cases. So you can see that there is a huge interest and a huge potential if the application is done correctly. In Denmark, they already use Sentinel-2 data to create crop stress maps. So if you know the farm boundaries and you observe with the vegetation sensitive satellite imagery each 5 days the field, you can monitor the differences in the field, but also the relation over time, which parts of the field are working, are not as active on other parts, and either you can apply countermeasures or adapt accordingly. This might be irrigation, might be fertilizer. So it's not a single use case, but quite many levels on which you can address this. And here the estimate is it's already between 3.8 and 7.9 million direct economic benefit given. And you can reduce the use of chemicals. Also, this also reduces, it's cheaper to reduce chemicals, but also long-term, you have better and more fertile soil in the end. And the growing potatoes in Belgium is actually also, potatoes are quite a crucial part of the Belgian economy, and it follows the same produce more with less, so a common scheme that we have here. And again, Sentinel-2 is used, and there are some, which is called an app or a web interface, which is called Watch It Grow, developed by these three companies. I know that one or two of them are actually in this meeting today. There are different beneficiaries of the service directly on a farming level to create higher yield, because at the end, what this one you have is higher yield. But also on the level above, on the economist and the consultant level, can give better advice to the farmers they're supporting. And finally, also the industry, which are processing in this case, potatoes, can improve their strategic planning on data warehousing, etc. And again, there's a current benefits mentioned, but also full potential, saying that there's already a substantial saving given, but not yet reached the full potential. And the third one is the farm management support in Poland. It's pretty much the same story. It's again a Sentinel-based services to their clients. Again, reducing a fertilizer and increase yield. And again, I just say the number, and that there is a benefit in overall economic of several million euros per year. And I think by this, I hope I have shown you the potential, so that there is a big potential of Copernicus data to support agriculture, that there is a real benefit for not only for the farmer, but also for other stakeholders informed. And even more, I hope that I convince you that there's even a bigger possible benefit, which is not addressed yet. So this is one of the activities we are working on, also in the EO4agri project, to even further utilize and foster the use of Copernicus data. So this is the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much, David. So I think it's quite evident that there's a great potential in Earth observation itself and particularly in combining it. So I think we go straight to Joaquin before we then enter the discussion. Joaquin, you had some examples, more examples to just continue on where David ended about possibilities to join, some examples on how we can combine the two.
Yeah, indeed. And the funny thing, when I am talking to the users, they are like, sometimes when you are asking, okay, are you using Copernicus or are you using Galileo? They are telling, no, I am not using that. And yeah. they say, but okay, how do you manage this? And they, no, I am using Sentinel data, and I am just using my phone, and my phone is telling me where I am. So I don't need any GNSS receiver. And I say, okay, but your phone is receiving the GNSS satellite signal. So this is, I mean, the good point of these applications is that the user very often, she never realized that what is he using. And the only way that they realize is when something fails. This is the case when Eva and Sofia, they have a lot of work because something is happening and we are really calling them and saying, okay, what is happening here or whatever. Okay, so I will jump to the last presentation. Thanks a lot for all the brave people that is still there attending, and yes. I think that is a good sign that they are really enjoying. And I will go to the last part. So here we are like putting all together. Okay, so now it's clear what Eva, Sofia, and David explained to us. How are all the systems? And what I am explaining here is what I am maybe closing this wonderful webinar that Bente was so kind to invite us and to organize everything. So basically, starting on 1st January 2021, GSA is evolving to EU Space Program Agency. So we will change the name, but this is also changing the responsibilities and the duties that we will have. So we will still continue managing Galileo and EGNOS, but we will also take care of Copernicus and Gov.com and more issues. So the thing is, we will stay in Prague. We will keep the same place, but we are just changing the name. And in order to be ready for that, we are already working on Copernicus, and we are already learning all the things that Copernicus can provide us. As I said at the beginning, this is a small family. I have been working in this wonderful GNSS world for 15 years, and I can confirm that this still include Copernicus in the picture. So there are plenty of synergies. If you want to analyze the synergies, I think that we can go to an independent study, that is the one of UNOSA, and you can check what are all the synergies that we analyze there. Just to give you a summary, maybe I think that this is a complete summary of all the presentation. This is what we are doing today. This is how we are analyzing and how we are perceiving the agriculture today. The agriculture today is not only one guy who is taking the tractor and is going every day to the field just to put potatoes. As David was saying, this guy, when arrive home, he takes the computer, he or she takes the computer, they analyze the data, analyze the meteo, maybe contact with the sensors, the IoT sensors, Internet of the Things sensors that he has in the field, and collect all this data. And sometimes he's analyzing, but sometimes he's also using a service outside, and is entering this big data approach where all the data is collected, not only his or her data, is everything all together. And even if he's so brave and he has the license and he's flying a drone and using robots, all this infrastructure that maybe 150 or maybe even 10 years ago, it was not even feasible, or nobody can think about that. The idea is that today is using in a really transparent mode. And this guy with a smartphone or with a tablet is able to take a decision, a better decision for what he has to do on the next day, on the next year, and maybe how he can invest and how he can move and use his or her own resources. So he's not alone anymore. And okay, keeping in mind that without farming there is no food, and this situation that we are now, we realize that we can survive without football matches, without traveling, without a lot of things that we are usually doing. All of us, we are eating every day. So this is where all these synergies, all these applications are important and are really, really transparent. So just to conclude this webinar, and before entering in the questions, allow me to remark 3 examples that we have taken from our experience. The easy one, and the one that is really popular, is these variable rate applications. We have to take care about the environment. We have to take care about the planet. We know that there is not planet B, so we need to take care. And one of the options is reduce the fuel consumption, reduce the chemicals, trying to optimize what we are doing. And the easy way is, okay, we can use the maps that David was explaining. We can take all this information, even if we don't understand all this information, we can take it and implement in the machinery, in the tools that we have in the tractor, as Eva and Sofia were explaining. And this tool is able to manage all this information and is able to allow us to give to put the correct amount of chemicals. And of course, this information can be used for the next year, and we can even analyze how this information and how the things that we are doing today are affecting in the work that the farmers has to do in the next year. So second point, why we cannot optimize the bureaucracy burden that all the farmers they have to do. I mean, they need to focus on their task. They need to do what they need to do, and they don't care about all this paperwork and all this documentation that they need to submit. The good point is that with this Copernicus maps, with this Sentinel data that they have available for free, they can also use for free these tools like the geotag photos or whatever, and they can report what they are doing in a transparent and in an easy way without using any additional service or any additional Copernicus maps. He can submit and simplify all the procedures that he has to do on a daily basis, and the ones they are usually doing on these raining and horrible days. And last but not least, okay, all these things and all these improvements, how the farmer can be sure that what he is doing is really affecting and is really taking care and improving the efficiency of the things. So even after the sailing and after the harvesting, he can also analyze what was happening. And using GNSS, not just for positioning, is also using for reflectometry or for several things. So they can combine, the farmers can combine all this information and analyze what is happening. And of course, cross-check. I mean, when they are going there and when they want to analyze what was happening, everything, even if the season is over, they can validate what they are analyzing or what the information that they are receiving, just with a simple smartphone or with a simple tablet. Okay, last slide from my side, I promise. Okay, I am talking about the technology. We are talking about the technology. We are talking about the satellite programs. We are talking about the funding. But when we are thinking about the future, we need to think about the next generation. We need to think about the students, and we need to think about how to make this farming attractive to all of them. And I think that the one of the important point that we are doing here in collaboration with the European Environmental Agency and also in cooperation with CLAS, that is one of the machinery manufacturers, we are organizing a contest that is farming by satellite. In this contest, we are looking for new and young farmers that they have the idea and they can submit this idea. And basically, if you follow us in the social networks, we are using this image just to say, okay, discover. The first message for this next generation is discover what you have for free, what you have available today, and let's try to use it. Let's try to think about how we can use all this satellite information. The applications, I mean, what we need now is just to submit your idea, submit an idea about what you have in mind. Just fill the form, submit the application, and it's done. And what are you getting? And if you success, you can achieve up to 5,000 euros. We have the first prize, that is 5,000 euros. Then we have second and third, that is 3,000 and 1,000 euros. And we have a special prize for Africa because it's a continent that is close to Europe. EGNOS is somehow available in Africa and the Galileo is global, so we can always use it. And the good point is that we need to develop all the environment. So not only Europe, and we can also think about other parts of the world. So this is just a summary, and as I said, this is the last slide, and I think that now we can enter in the next step of this webinar. And thanks a lot, everybody, to stay here with us, even if it's 32 minutes. Above the limit. And thanks, Bente, for organizing. Thanks, EO4agri team, to allow us to be part of the family. And of course, thanks to Eva, Sofia, ladies first, and then David for all the help and all the information that you have shared about Galileo, EGNOS, and Copernicus.
Yes, thank you so much, Joaquin. This has been so great. Of course, the speakers, the presentations are very informative and very well presented. I think I can say that. I just posted the link to the slides in the FTP, an FTP web link where you can download the slides as we promised. So you have that. In addition, you will get more slides, in each of the presentations in separate slides, either on the EO4agri, on the GSA, or the Plan for All, or just follow us on social media, and you will be able to find the reporting blog. Now, having said that, I've done a lot of the polls, and thank you so much, the audience. Yes. Now I talked about the presenters. I will also like to comment on the audience here. Thank you so much for staying on this long. It means, as Joaquin said, that you are really interested, which is awesome. And thank you also for all your comments and your questions. This is so valuable. And one other thing I want to, before we have a few discussions here, I want to answer some of the comments has been, how can we continue to interact with each other, those of you who are here, this community? And one way of doing that we, this team here, discussed before the webinar actually, is to organize a follow-up webinar. So what we can do is that since you are registered here, we are able to communicate with all of you to invite you to the next webinar. Who is sharing the whiteboard? Yeah, so because we are not going to use it anyways, we will send you an invite to we are able to send you communications through the the email that you sent us. But right now I will also publish the final poll where we would like to gauge which topic would be more interesting for you as a follow-up. So that's a concrete answer right before we go into more detail and more technical questions. That's an answer to how can we maintain in touch in this community. Now, I will do that while we are answering the question. And I remember we had a question from the very, very beginning in the very early part of it. And that was, yes, there was a Cosmin is asking one question, a short question for you, Joaquin, about EGNOS for CAP. There is the app to be used on smartphones, but there is also an office part to be used by the payment agencies, for example. In parallel, there are different paying agencies developing their own system. So how is this related?
Okay, I mean, I think that this is easy. I mean, it's a really good question, but not with an easy answer. I mean, we are aware about all these developments. Indeed, we are in close contact with all the paying agencies, because as I said, European GNSS agency is a public institution that we are not developing itself the applications. But just to give you two numbers, I mean, we organized a webinar in May. We were expecting like 10, 12, 15 people. We had like 60, 70. And the last presentation, the side event of the Mars conference, I think that I had several issues to fit almost 200 people at GSA. I mean, physical. I mean, people traveling to GSA to check what is happening with this app. So indeed, I mean, the short answer is yes, we are aware. There is plenty of information. I will recommend you to check the manual. But yes, the answer is we have an application that is in the smartphone. That is when you can upload the pictures, and then you have a console, or what we call a web console, where you can check all the pictures. What I will invite you is to send us an email, and we can easily organize a 30 minutes video call, and we will explain all the details. Because I mean, what we started to develop I mean, we need to, in the workshop, we will explain all the functionalities, all the details. And basically, it took us like 3 hours to explain everything. And even if Bente confirms that we have 4 hours, I think that we can just customize and particularize this question. On top, I think that if we are receiving, because the important point of this app is not to develop something for the payment agency, it's just to use the advantage and the differentiators of Galileo, as Eva was saying, and also even EDAS and this better accuracy that EGNOS is able to provide to the GPS signals. And for the smartphones that are not Galileo, we can still use this EGNOS. So, I mean, there are a lot of information. So I think that the easy answer is done. The difficult one, but the complete one, you can do it just visiting the web page of the project and contact us using this Hello account, that is hello@EGNSS4CAP.eu. Everything is there. We have user manual. I know that nobody wants to read the user manual, but sometimes is the way to understand all the functionalities.
Yes. Yeah, we need to support the user manuals.
At least at the end, when everything fails, is when you can come back to the user manual.
You need to gradually get into the user manuals.
Anyway, just to mitigate this action, we also prepare a quick start guide of 4 pages. So it's also a tricky situation, a tricky way to avoid to read all the complete user manual.
Yes. Okay, so I have another interesting question here, I think you will like. And that is about the, a few questions on EGNOS versus HAS, sensitive and political. Where did we get these questions? Michael, can you help us? Maybe. And we had some questions also on authentication. But I think maybe you answer. Eva?
Yes, there was a quite interesting question about authentication and integrity. I have already answered in the chat, but I think it is important, so I can discuss a little bit about this thing.
Yeah.
I was asked about the relation of authentication and integrity. We can say that they are indirectly related, but in fact, the concept has nothing to do one with the other, because in this context, integrity is related to the confidence level of the error bounds, okay? So we get a position, we get an error, and then we have a confidence level of that error. So, for example, EGNOS, which is an augmentation system, provides integrity to GPS because it provides certain corrections and also which are the level of confidence of these corrections that it is providing, okay? It is not the case for Galileo for the moment, but because EGNOS for the moment does not cover Galileo corrections, but it will be in future. And then the authentication is more related to the intrusion to our signal. So I put an example here. Imagine that you are on a boat in the international waters and someone is making interference to your GNSS signal. So when you compute your position, you are thinking that you are in another place. Okay, so that's the authentication. The authentication service will avoid this kind of this spoofing, and the integrity is related to the positioning error. So,
yeah, thank you. That was.
You're welcome.
Yes. Great. And then I have a few short questions, maybe longer answers. I'm not sure. Vittorio, he's asking how many hours per orbit of a Galileo satellite are devoted to agricultural measurements. I'm not sure we can answer exactly how many hours, but maybe you can give us an indication.
24 hours.
Yes.
24 hours a day.
Yes.
In fact, yes. Galileo sends a signal. You receive the signal with your receiver, and this is the way you use that information that comes in the signal that will be focused on one domain or another. But the kind of information within the signals is the same, the pseudo range and so on. Okay.
So the signals, there is no competition between the different applications. The signal is there and you can use it as you please all the time. There is no competition.
Yeah.
Why do we use Galileo? Sumiap is asking us why we use Galileo rather than Navstar or GLONASS.
Well, because it is European. No, so I was joking. Well, yeah. In fact, as I mentioned in the first slide, the way the Galileo signal is modulated, for example, make it more robust to multipath effects, okay? The best scenario is to use a multi-constellation environment. So you can, your device, combine the different measurements so it has more measurements to compute the positioning, and the internal algorithms that your device has can reject the worst ones and gets only the best ones. So the future scenario comes for the multi-constellation environment.
Yeah, so all in all, we all benefit from having, it's a simple redundancy questions as well, right? So if one is for some reason not working, you have another option.
Also, it is also a key point that if we rely only, for example, on GPS, at the end, it is from the European point of view, it is not ours. So if in future, by any political problem, United States decide to cut the service off, we are lost. So it's also good for have our autonomous system. Well, maybe Joaquin can complement this information, or.
I mean, I can, but okay. Let's go for a stupid example. I mean, imagine that you have a car that is brand in America, but is 20 years old, and now you have a car that is brand in Europe and is new. So which technology do you think that is better? Just think about it. I mean, I am not able to provide you more information than the one that we already give to you, but think about the technology of the 80s and think about the technology of the 2000 years old. Or I mean, it's absolutely different. The signal is different and everything. And on top, as Eva is saying, this is not a competition. I mean, GPS is for free. Nobody is selling anything. Nobody is buying anything. I mean, the only thing is that you have the signal there, and the question is not why we use it, is why we don't use it. If the signal is there and is for free. And also answering another question that is possible to combine this. I mean, the most powerful receiver that you have is this one, is your smartphone. I mean, your smartphone today is able to manage the 4 constellations, GPS, Galileo, Beidou, and GLONASS. And you don't really care, but is computing is taking all the satellites. And as higher is the number of the available satellites, the better is the position that you are receiving in your smartphone. So don't think that there is no possibility to convert and to merge all the signals, because the smartphone is already doing it.
Yeah, so that I think you answered then Herbert Ngaya's question with that last comment, Joaquin. Yeah, here's another one from Herbert.
And even the next one, that is, can the Galileo in our Android phone? Yes.
yes. We have, yeah, absolutely. But Herbert is also asking about EGNOS here. Do you think that EGNOS will still remain important for non-safety applications like agriculture when Galileo will reach 20 centimeter accuracy?
Hi. Yes, I think I've somehow tried to answer, but the text is not long enough. So first thing I would like to highlight is that not always more accuracy is better. I think accuracy, there is a wide range of accuracy provided by public services, by European services, as EGNOS, Galileo, and many others. So the first thing is it's there. I mean, the fact that it does not provide as much accuracy as the one Galileo is going to provide, this does not mean that it cannot be used. The important thing is, what accuracy do you require? If this accuracy is enough for I mean, if EGNOS is providing you this accuracy. And then there is another topic. Technology is there, evolves, high accuracy may imply that in the near future, a final user will need to upgrade or buy a new device, and we have to be aware. So there's always the balance. If you really need this accuracy, you have to buy a new equipment that will be more expensive. And then, so the answer is no yes nor no. So you have a public service there. Please do not understand that EGNOS as providing just this 1 meter's accuracy is not accurate, because please recall that it was not a high accuracy service. It was designed for civil aviation, right? And for civil aviation, those quantities are more than enough. So taking for granted that this public service that is there, and if it's going to provide any user any added value, take it and use it. It's not a matter of comparing if it's better or if it's worse, if it's going to survive. So there are many things to be considered. Also, the user segment, the receiver, because EGNOS will continue providing legacy service. So those users that are happy with the accuracy provided today by EGNOS and do not need to make any investment to obtain more accuracy for their given applications, they will not be forced, right, to invest in newer equipment and more expensive in order to, let's say, keep the trend. So it's not black or white, but I think it should be understood in this wider context.
Yes.
Yeah, and if I may,
Sure, of course.
I mean, yeah. Thanks. The idea is don't think that Eva and Sofia are just checking and analyzing the satellites and just and this is all. We are also thinking about the second generation of Galileo and the new version of EGNOS. So I mean, Sofia and Eva and their corresponding teams, we are all together working on how to improve the service that we already have. I mean, now Galileo is working. It's true that we have some delays and we have some services that are not fully available yet, like the OSNMA and a high accuracy service. But we have all the work done for all the evolutions in long term, and it's the same for EGNOS. Now it's monofrequency. Now it's just correcting just GPS. Mm-hmm. And just providing code correction. So we are thinking about how to improve also this EGNOS and European service. And mm-hmm. keeping in mind that always for free. I mean, there is no charge applicable to Galileo Open Service or to EGNOS.
No. So, and this is, well, I want to add something important here because the audience in our webinar here represent basically the entire world. We have people from South America, from North America, from Russia, from India, from Nepal, basically, and of course from Europe. So we do have India. Yeah, there's a lot of countries represented here, and so I think it's free for all. So both Galileo, the services that you learned about, and Copernicus are actually free for everybody. So we can easily join, create a global community. And this is now a question from Alberto Florencio. He's from Latin America, it seems like, and he's asking how to become a user of your software tool and which kind of sensors and devices could be connected. I mean, to recognize the device and the sensor, it requires one activation code. Do you have a list of those devices or sensors, or a list of partners with base in LATAM? I'm looking to provide solutions in Latin America in the agricultural sector. I think that was a good example that we could try to comment and answer.
If I may, because I tried to answer partially, right? The first thing I explained is that EGNOS in Latin America is not available for the obvious reason that it's in Europe. But I pointed to some link in the EGNOS user support website where the user can find a PDF where different farming equipments are mentioned, and it's explained how to configure EGNOS. Obviously, EGNOS is not available for Latin, but let's say the principles of how to configure those equipments everywhere are there. So maybe this at least places the user in a better starting point to understand which are, at least on the GNSS side, which are the equipments available, at least for this side. But maybe in the use Galileo, Eva, or Joaquin, there's more information available.
Yeah. Yes, and Guillermo, he's actually mentioning their NASA. Yeah. We have trouble hearing you, and then the connection sometimes with Joaquin. I don't know if you noticed. Sometimes it's a little off. So maybe this is the case now. But
okay.
Yeah. Now
better.
Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes I am missing just the sound. So yes, I think that this is apologize. I am doing my best. I am trying to commit as much bandwidth as possible, but okay, there are some limitations. Yes, I mean in this way, I mean as usual, I will also invite Alberto if he has any question. We have this help desk for EGNOS and for Galileo is available. They are working every day, and they can answer all the questions. And they have a minimum time to response or maximum time to respond. So they have to answer in a really short time. I think that is 1 week. So basically, for the case of Galileo, we have this use Galileo when we are trying to collect all the devices that are using Galileo, from a smartphone until any kind of receiver. And it's true that we cannot give all the information that is given by the EGNOS help desk, because the service itself is not at the same level. I mean, if you are using Galileo, you are using Galileo. You cannot really, you are not receiving corrections. You cannot really analyze what is happening with the services. Galileo is a global service, while EGNOS is augmentation service. So they are two different kind of services. So I think that this could be the first point. I mean, it's good to have you here in the webinar, but don't consider that we are like disconnected, switching off the laptops, and then not working anymore on EGNOS and Galileo. We are still here. We have all the help desk, so we are really happy to help you using and promoting Galileo as much as possible, even if you are not working in Europe. So that doesn't matter. It's a global system, so you can use it.
So I want to jump very quickly to Copernicus here, because Giuseppe is asking about Copernicus as well, because it's the combination that we really are looking after to benefit from here. And Giuseppe is asking, is it possible to use Copernicus radar satellite data for precision agriculture application? That's the first step, I guess. David?
The answer is an easy yes.
Yes.
Of course, the details are more complicated. With radar data, it's not easy to say the pixel size is 10 meters or so, because the backscatter can be quite noisy, and you need to average over a certain field size, or at least apply some filters. What we normally say, as soon as you have 30 by 30 meters homogeneous coverage, then you can use radar data quite well. Depends on, of course, on the geometry of what you look at, forestry or agriculture, on the plant type. So as soon as you go deeper, as everything gets complicated. But there are many use cases where radar data is used. Maybe one that I've mentioned before, soil moisture estimation is of course something. It's a bit problematic because the C-band of Sentinel-1 it doesn't penetrate very deeply into the soil, so just a few centimeters. So it's more a surface soil water estimation. But even that can be, if you combine that with in situ soil measurements, you can get a very precise soil moisture estimation. If we talk about yield, this might be one of the biggest impact that can be achieved in agriculture, precision agriculture. But there are many more applications with Sentinel-1 data also in agriculture.
Yes, and we are actually in EO4agri, we are addressing this possible combination of optical Sentinel-1 and Sentinel-2 data. So it's very interesting. It needs some technical work, some research, but adding then, so this is why we are here now, to see we can even augment this information with positioning data, either from Galileo or from EGNOS. I mean, and the combination of all. I mean, those are the questions that we would like to address more. I saw one more. Did you? Yeah, I have from Cosmin another question here. What EGNOS? What about EGNOS reception is difficult in difficult areas, forest, buildings, etc.?
As well, I think it's not only applicable for EGNOS. I think it's applicable for all GNSS. I mean, there are two topics that have to be, or two facts that need to be considered for having a good reception of signals, to have a good accuracy when using those signals in the positioning. The first thing is that the clear sky you have, and by clear here it's meant no obstructions, no buildings, no trees. But this applies for GPS, for Galileo, for GLONASS, for absolutely everything, right? And then the other thing is multipath. So if you're not, once again, in a clear environment condition, that can be an aerodrome, for instance, the landing of an aerodrome that is clear, no obstacle, no everything, no surface clear near to the aircraft to have any reflection, or you are in the middle of the land, on a field or whatever. Then you will have always let's say you are in a subnominal condition in order to have very good performances. And this is one of the reasons why multi-constellation, as Joaquin explained before, makes a difference. So if you don't have so many satellites because they are obstructed because of the mountains, the hills, the buildings or whatever, then having GPS plus GLONASS plus Galileo then makes a difference. And I also pointed in the answer to Cosmin that in the EGNOS User Support website we developed a visibility map considering, and it was a very nice exercise of using the outcomes of Copernicus, because we use this as a surface model the outcome of Copernicus in order to estimate which were the areas in Europe that's due to the mountains and even in other countries due to the elevation of the geostationary satellite, where there was not going to be so much visibility from microsatellites. So I don't know if I think I've more or less covered the question.
Yes.
Thanks, Bente.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think we are now exactly 2 hours into the webinar. It's awesome to have so many. It's more than 100 still here, I think. So, which is awesome. I think, Joaquin,
I told you that the topic is a hot topic, eh?
Yes, yes.
And
we are not so bad.
To this hot potato.
And I see from the small survey I made on the follow-up, which I think is a loud and clear yes, that there is interest to follow up and to have this community continue to discuss and learn. And we have, well, 57% of you want to have some more showcases, to have more demonstration on how we can combine Copernicus positioning data with Earth observations. But very closely, 41% want also to dive deeper into the different technical tools and the tools where you can combine the two programs, the resources. So I'm Joaquin, I think we were prepared to do another webinar at least. I think we got a yes from the audience here. What do you say?
Yes, I mean, I think that we are fully available.
Yes.
Now that we are healthy at home, we can really use these wonderful tools and be ready to be in contact with all the users. So why not? If they are asking for more, we will give them more.
Yeah. We will. And we will have fun doing it, and we will learn, because the questions, I have to say, has been very informative for us as well. And but now I am ready to call it a day. How about you, Joaquin? Do you want to add something, or the others, David?
No, I mean, from my point of view, I think that I already did. Yes, yeah. Thanks to everybody, and saying that this is the first webinar that we are doing in this new family, and I am sure that it's not the last one.
Absolutely.
It was fun. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes. Very rewarding. Thank you so much. Absolutely the most wonderful audience ever, and I mean it. You have been so generous with your comments and questions. I really appreciate it. And of course, excellent presentations by this panel of experts. So you will receive an email from us with a new webinar information very soon. Thank you. Have a lovely evening, morning, night, whatever you are covering the entire world. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
A pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.